It's a sunny day in June, and the wind blows through the Oklahoma prairie. In Ottawa County, groups of children are outside playing lacrosse. They run up and down the field, panting from the distance they've gone. From afar, it looks like a regular game, but when you take a closer look, these laps being run are not for the sole purpose of winning. Rather, each step brings the children closer to rediscovering a forgotten past. Like their ancestors, these children are learning their tribe's cultural values and ideals through play. For many of them, it is the first time they're learning about their rich cultural heritage and tribal history, how their ancestors survived in the past, the success they have created for themselves in the present, and a guide as they step into the future. This is the story of the Eastern Shawnee tribe of Oklahoma, one of 3 federally recognized Shawnee tribes. The tribal seal contains 4 important symbols. The circle, emblematic of the continuous and never-ending journey of the tribe. The spear protects the Eastern Shawnee national citizenship. The panther, representing motion, strength, and courage. And finally, the swan, a sign of grace and dignity. These symbols of the tribal seal represent the great and continuous history of the tribe as brave warriors, mediators, peacemakers, always moving forward. These valued qualities serve as the basis of a distinct tribal identity, known as the greatest travelers of America, a phrase first coined by Edmund Atkins in 1754. This legacy of movement is woven into the identity of the Eastern Shawnee tribe of Oklahoma and has led the tribe not only to survive, but to thrive. Today, the tribe is located in the northeast corner of Oklahoma and Ottawa County. With over 3,000 citizens, the community continues to be a testament to the spirit of the greatest travelers of America, moving forward under the strong leadership of the first elected female leader in their recorded history, Chief Glenna Wallace. In recent decades, the Eastern Shawnee have successfully become one of the most economically viable of the 9 tribes currently residing in the county. Today, the economic enterprises of the Eastern Shawnee are a great point of pride and strength for the tribe. The 12 major businesses of the nation continue to grow and expand. The most recent addition was the grand opening of the Bordertown Casino in April 2015. The businesses operate on over 1,000 acres of land and employ over 600 tribal members. The financial stability this economic success brings to the tribe has allowed them to expand services to provide a better quality of life for tribal members. The Eastern Shawnee have launched numerous successful service programs that provide support for tribal citizens in all aspects of their lives. These include a wellness center, a food program, police and fire departments, and a tribal housing division that supports a residential community for the elderly and the opportunity for homeownership for tribal members. In addition to these programs, the tribe is focused on investing in the future as they offer scholarship support for their children's education in order to ensure future success. The achievements of today's Eastern Shawnee would not be possible if it were not for the history and culture that brought them to this point. In the words of Chief Buck Captain, if you want to research the Shawnees, you've got to go back to Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, because that's where our history is. People here had no way of recording it. People couldn't read and write. It was all handed down. So when they ended up being moved 3 or 4 times, why, it got lost. The story of the greatest travelers of America's movement can be traced to the 11th century. Most scholars connect the Shawnee to the Fort Ancient culture, a people who inhabited the Ohio River Valley. Their political, cultural, and social systems shaped their descendant tribe, the Shawnee. Much like the river valleys they settled within, the people of the Fort Ancient cultures were in constant motion, cascading throughout the landscape across the vast geographical network of river systems. Yet in spite of the great distances between them and significant interactions with other tribes, they maintained a distinct identity. As European settlers arrived in North America, they found Shawnee people dispersed throughout the landscape. Not rooted to one location, larger Shawnee communities were stretched across the continent, earning them the title of greatest travelers. They traveled widely to live on the edge of the rapidly shifting borders of the Middle Ground. Yet they always maintained a distinct identity and connection to the Ohio Territory. By the early 1800s, many Shawnee had relocated west to the Missouri area. However, a few remained in Ohio, and in 1817, 3 reservations were established: Hog Creek, Wapakoneta, and Lewistown, named for Shawnee Chief Colonel Lewis. The latter reserve was home to a small group of Shawnee who had settled with people of the Seneca. The government called them the mixed band of Seneca and Shawnee. In 1830, President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act. Many associate Indian removal with the Cherokee Trail of Tears, but it impacted many other tribes as well, including the Shawnee. Those of the Lewistown Reserve in Ohio were removed to Oklahoma, site of the present-day Eastern Shawnee Nation. Those from the other Ohio reserves were removed to Kansas. Shawnee and Missouri were not immediately affected. However, with the impending Civil War, these communities of Shawnee were set in motion. In 1887, the U.S. government passed the Indian Allotment Act, which broke up tribal community-controlled lands into individually owned allotments for tribal members. This opened new lands for American expansion. Hand in hand with the civilization efforts of boarding schools, the goal of these efforts was the assimilation of Native people to the habits, practices, and interests of the American settler population. The Eastern Shawnee were again set in motion during the Great Depression as the area underwent a great drought, known as the Dust Bowl. Many tribal members survived by migrating to the West Coast in search of economic opportunities as migrant farm workers. A number stayed, and today there's a large community of Eastern Shawnee in Washington, Oregon, and California. The present government structure of the Eastern Shawnee was formed in 1939 when the current Constitution was created. Today, the Eastern Shawnee call many places home, especially Ottawa County, seat of their tribal government. While their past is complex, they have endured what Chief Glenna calls a history of loss. Their story, however, is also one of resilience and triumph. The Native heart is still alive today in the Eastern Shawnee Nation, and the sense of stability and growth the tribe enjoys has allowed them to think about the past as well as the future as they work to reclaim their cultural history. The Eastern Shawnee tribe is recreating the story of their past in order to rediscover forgotten history, customs, and traditions. Tribal members have used their own tribal knowledge, along with the help of other Shawnee tribes, to piece together their cultural past so that it may be reclaimed for future generations. Let's look at 3 examples of cultural revival that have been developed. Youth camps for teaching the future generation. A program to resurrect the sleeping language of the Shawnee. And the nomination of the Newark Earthworks in Ohio for World Heritage status. The Summer Youth Culture Camp provides the opportunity for tribal children to learn and experience their culture. They are taught dances, values such as the importance of community, and other cultural practices that introduce the younger generations to Shawnee culture. The lessons learned at camp are reinforced as the tribe sponsors regular dance and language classes throughout the year. The Shawnee language is part of an oral tradition. However, much of it was lost as a result of their travels and historical circumstances. There are currently no fluent Shawnee language speakers among tribal members. To reawaken their traditional language, the tribe has partnered with language speakers from other Shawnee tribes. They offer regular language classes for the youth and adult tribal members and feature the language on their website. Last, the tribe has been an important sponsor in efforts to help preserve the Newark Earthworks, the largest geometric mound complex in the world built more than 2,000 years ago. Scholars believe this was a central ceremonial site for indigenous people, as the mounds mark significant points in solar and lunar cycles. Through partnership with the Ohio History Connection and others, the Eastern Shawnee hope to have a hand in protecting this world-class monumental architecture for the foreseeable future. This has been the story of the Eastern Shawnee tribe of Oklahoma. A story of loss and sorrow, but also a story of hope and triumph. The legacy of their ancestors, the greatest travelers in America, has not been forgotten. There are still many things to be discovered and many goals to be met to keep the rich culture of the tribe alive. But it is a challenge faced with optimism and determination as the tribe continues to grow and move forward.
Hey,